views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up on today's show, we'll give you an update on what's been going on right here in the Bronx. Today we'll have Assemblymember Luis Sepulveda of the Assembly District 87 to join us talking about the state budget and criminal justice reform. 1 out of 4 deaths in the United States is actually due to heart disease. And this is according to the U.S. Center of Disease and Control Prevention. Joining us in studio today, a heart specialist and 2 heart transplant survivors. After that, due to a series in the Bronx, the fire department is continuing their fire prevention program. We'll be joined by 2 members of the FDNY who will be joining us to tell us a little bit more. And then Hostos Community College celebrates their 50th anniversary with a series of events commemorating their contributions to the community. Then our political analyst Lee Bynes joins us with the latest news coming out of Washington, D.C. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Because right now we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, February 14th. Yes, it's Valentine's Day, and happy Valentine's Day to you all. Today, we're watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. Now, we want to encourage you to stay connected to us. If you want to find out more information about us, you can go to Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, lots has been going on over this past week. We'll update you now with some local Bronx updates. Well, February is Black History Month, and in the Bronx, one community stopped to honor several African-American game changers who've blazed the trail of work through their work in the community. The event was hosted by Councilmember Andy King and was held at Evanger Childs High School's library. Honorees included Tamika Mallory of Mallory Consulting, founder. She's also the Women's March National Co-Chairwoman, as well as activist Hazel Dukes, civil rights activist and former NAACP National President, and Michael Gardner of the 100 Black Men Incorporated, as well as Al DeCastro, Northeast Bronx Democratic Club's founding member and the Northeast Bronx Community Coalition founder. And we want to tell you, guess what? A new school will be coming our way right here in the borough of the Bronx. 350 children will now enjoy the state-of-the-art Bronx Community School, home to the Children's Aid College Prep Charter School on 1232 Southern Boulevard in Foxhurst. The new school will be expanding to include pre-K and 5th grade next year. The new $45 million facility will be the home to 350 children from grades pre-K through 5, featuring a comprehensive array of resources in the building. Now, the new building includes a gymnasium, an auditorium, cafeteria, expanded science room, an art room, a dedicated dance studio, a music room, a library, a media center, as well as meeting rooms. Each classroom will be equipped with smart boards, computers, and tablets, and also each student is being given either an iPad or a Chromebook as an educational resource. The project was funded by the Children's Aid Organization. Well, President Trump released his 2019 budget proposal on Monday, calling for increased spending on the military border, as well as border security and the opioid crisis. But the White House blueprint has already been overtaken by some key events. The 2-year budget deal passed by Congress last week boosts spending for both the military and domestic programs by nearly $300 billion over the next 2 years, complicating the White House efforts to reorder federal priorities. BronxWorks will organize their 4th annual Polar Bear Plunge at Orchard Beach. It's called a Dip Against Homelessness. Participants will brave the frigid weathers of the beach to remind us all of the challenges of living on the street in the winter. This 5-minute dip is a reminder of the bone-chilling cold our most vulnerable neighbors deal with during the winter months. Bring new gloves, socks, or hats, and even scarves to Orchard Beach if you want to help donate to BronxWorks Homeless Service Program. Donated items can also be dropped off now through Friday at 5 p.m., February 16th, at the following locations. BronxWorks locations, their administrative office, that's 60 East Tremont Avenue, the Classic Community Center at 286 East 156th Street, Batantes Community Center, 547 East 146th Street, and the Carolyn McLaughlin Community Center, 1130 Grand Concourse, and the Living Room at 800 Barretto Street. Well, we're going to take a quick break after we're done with all of these updates, and we're going to be back with more Open, so stay with us. Coming up next, we go straight with our political segment, recapping the budget coming out of Washington, D.C. What exactly does it mean for all of us Americans? Our political analyst will be in studio to break that down. For that and more when we return here on Open.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund breeding.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant.
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
And we're back here on Open. Washington, D.C. is still trying to get that immigration deal done. Meanwhile, President Trump releases his budget, and there's still much controversy. Here to break it all down, Lee Bynes, our political analyst, joins us now in studio. Good to have you, man.
Good to be back.
Happy Valentine's Day. I see you got the red on.
Thank you very much. A little love has got to go out on today.
And special love to your wife as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, listen, let's talk about this here.
Sure.
President Trump now, as we're still talking, lawmakers in Washington, D.C. still trying to hatch out an immigration deal. We still know that they say there's bipartisan support, but where are we on all of this?
Well, to be honest with you, it's Valentine's Day. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
No love here, huh?
From Washington, it's not. Just yesterday, as a matter of fact, Mitch McConnell, leader of the House, I'm sorry, leader of the Senate, just mentioned that he's looking to wrap things up on this debate by the end of the week. The Democrats, on the other hand, are trying to force a little more time. I'm not sure that they actually deserve it, to be honest with you, because as the news is coming out, they didn't actually come up with bring a proposal and put it on the table. Why? I'm not certain at this point. But to be absolutely honest with you, with regards to the Dreamers, DACA, the undocumented persons, period, it doesn't look good because the president has pretty much laid down a marker with his 4 pillars of what he wants to see in this budget. What he wants to see as far as the immigration plan is concerned. And that being said, the Republicans did come prepared, and they brought to the table exactly what the president is looking to get. Now, we discussed this over the last couple of weeks. We talked about the fact that it's they're holding out for to get rid of the chain migration. Some people call it family unification in a humanitarian point of view, in terms of allowing someone who is legally here to bring their family members over, mother, father, sister, daughter, etc. That's off the table as far as the president is concerned, as well as he definitely wants the border wall. Now, where the Democrats may give on that, where they will be held to the fire and pay holy hell if they give up on those the other items on that list. It'll all break down. Now, if in fact, as we mentioned before, that the Senate is able to come to an agreement, which is extremely doubtful at this point, because in order for that to happen, they're going to need at least 60 votes to get it out of the Senate. It's got to go to the House. As we mentioned before, the House is a very, very conservative space right now. They're the ones who are holding out for the president. They want to make sure that he gets those 4 pillars in place. If that happens, it's absolutely no way on this earth that anything is going to come out of there positive for these.
And
folks.
we know Democrats are saying, listen, we want to try to wait to push this vote. And how realistic are they going to be in terms of getting what they want, pushing or on a delay?
Well, let's make this very, very clear. March 5th is the drop dead date. After that point, no more applications will be able to be reestablished. So if they don't get something done right away, those folks are going to be exposed to arrests, detainment, and deportation. And from what I've been able to gather over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, the ICE agents have not been particularly discerning on who they've been rounding up. We were told initially that they were going to be taking grabbing the worst of the worst. But over the last few weeks, we've been hearing about people, scientists. There was one particular case that came to the fore this week where an individual from Bangladesh, he is a chemist. He's a professor. He had a green card to work in this country and no criminal record. He got a knock on his window as he was driving out of his driveway to take his daughter to school, and they brought him in. So this is going to be a very, very dicey situation, and if they decide to push it up to the last minute, they're playing with fire with these people's lives.
Let me switch subjects real quick. Talk about the budget. The president has released his budget, calling for more increased military spending. A lot of people on the other side of the aisle saying, "Listen, a lot of it is being spent on spending and defense, but yet and still many of the issues at home still being neglected."
Well, here's the deal. When we took a look at the budget. The president is looking to obviously increase military spending. He got a 2-year deal on that. He still wants more. But you have to understand that this is coming at the expense of social programming, the social safety net of America. We're looking at cuts in Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and food stamps. We examined that whole food stamp program of what they're trying to do with that. And they're going to take a portion, if not at least between 40 and 50% of what people are receiving in terms of benefits right now. They will no longer get that money. They will get a box of food mailed to their homes on a monthly basis. It's going to be filled with canned goods, shelf goods, the type of stuff that you can get that has a shelf life of years. Now, since we know that you can't pack fruits and vegetables inside of boxes that's going to go through the mail and last for a long time, we're talking about a downgrade in the nutritional value of the foods that they're going to be getting. The government is looking to save a lot of money in order to pay for all these other items that the rich, the tax breaks that were given, as well as all of the money going to the...
Which is a huge departure from what we've ever seen before.
Well, not only is it a departure, but it's actually a departure from the promises that the president made during his campaign. He promised not to touch Social Security. He promised not to touch Medicare and Medicaid. But those things are on a chopping block right now. We looked at the food stamp program, as a matter of fact, over a 10-year period. They're looking to downsize that by $213 billion. Another thing you mentioned earlier, and is a major problem in this country, is that they had set aside a significant amount of money to address the opiate problem in this country. $17 billion will be cut from that program as well. So, if you happen to be short of $1, or you're living on a couple of dimes, you're going to be in dire straits very, very soon if this bill is able to go, if what the president wants goes through. Now, here's the deal. The budget that he proposed is just an estimate right now. I don't see any way in hell that that budget is going to get through and actually get passed. But it does tell you where the mindset is with the GOP. Because let's face it, Paul Ryan Speaker of the House has been looking at tampering with or cutting significantly the entitlement programs for quite some time. And now they feel that they're in a position to get that done. And that's rather disturbing.
With the immigration deal, and we know how far this has been debated and how this is being pushed out, how do we see the budget process playing on in terms of timeline?
Well, since the budget deal that they made already that gave them 2 years worth of space, it looks as though that's not going to go anywhere anytime soon, and they will take some time dragging that out. I mean, let's face it, the United States has been surviving on continuing CRs, which are continuing resolutions for quite some time. We've had 5 since September of 2017. Until they were able to come up with this particular bill, get it passed, and that was pretty much done at the expense of DACA.
All right, Lee Bynes, our political analyst. That's why we bring you in.
That's my pleasure to be here.
All right, Lee Bynes, our political analyst here on Open. You can catch him every week breaking down the latest in the world of politics. Taking a quick break. We'll return with more show, including the New York City Fire Department with a special message for you. That's coming up a little bit later. Stay with us.
I guess sometimes things just happen. Devastating things. Your whole world changes in an instant. That's what happened to me the day my mother had a stroke. I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. Protect the ones you love. Spot a stroke fast.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
Well, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo and state legislators are currently working on passing the state budget, criminal justice reform, immigration, and much more. Here now talking about the going-ons in Albany, Assemblymember Luis Sepulveda, who joins us now to talk a little bit about what is happening. And first of all, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And I was saying earlier, you still look like you're 25 years old when I met you 20 years ago.
Oh, that means the questions are going to be soft today. You got it, man. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And you look the same as well. Listen, let's talk about this here. Obviously, we talked about budget. We talked about what's going on in Washington, D.C.,
Yes.
but really talking closer to home when it comes to the state budget. A lot of talk is still going on, particularly about a couple of key areas. Let's talk about, first of all, do you think that we're going to get an on-time budget passed?
You know, that's always a crapshoot. We don't know. There are a lot of outside forces or occurrences that may impede an on-time budget. For example, we now have that John DeFrancisco, who's a Republican, may probably be running. He's a front runner now, been endorsed by Flanagan, who's the leader of the Senate. So his run for the governorship may cause some problems because now you have to inject, I mean, the budgets are politicized enough, but now you're going to inject even another factor in terms of politics to see what kind of on-time budget, what sort of budget the Republicans are going to want to push for an election year. So it's complex. There's a lot of pieces that have to fall into place. So I'm not going to say yes, but I'm not going to say no.
Looking at the budget, there's a lot of things that are going on. There are a lot of things that we can take a very particular look at. I want to talk a little bit closer to home, literally and figuratively. There's some things that you have some challenges with.
Well, yes. You know, we have the the caucus of Black, Puerto Rican, Latino, Hispanic, Asian caucus, which is really, it's an organization made up of elected officials of color, basically, that represent communities of color. We have a good number, about close to 70, 65 to 70 of us. And what we do is we try to push policies that are important to the communities of color. We try to get additional budgets, money for education, for social service programs. And we have now modified the criminal justice system on to raise the age. We're going to have it's a better system now. It still needs work, but a lot of these juveniles that have committed offenses will be taken away from the adult system. It's much more humane, and it certainly provides a path for changes for some of these young men and women that are incarcerated at a young age. As part of Raise the Age, a concept called Close to Home, where these young men and women are literally housed, rather than in prisons, they're going to be housed in facilities that are secured, run by docs, some level of NYPD, correctional. There's a system in place so these kids don't become a danger to the community in such a situation. But having these kids close to home, the empirical data certainly has demonstrated that these kids have a better chance of getting into the general population, of going to school, getting high school diplomas. It's been success. You see other models that are similar that have been very successful. Unfortunately, a lot of these kids that are, these youths that are in the system, that have gone through the criminal justice system are young Black and Latino men, mostly, some females, but mostly are kids in our communities. And so this program that has been a model that's been so successful in other areas is now caught in the crossfire between the mayor and the governor. As part of the budget, the governor in the executive budget didn't allocate another $200 million that I believe is necessary, and I think that's what people a lot more to know are saying you need to fund this. The city certainly says that. So the governor did not include the $200 million to fund Close to Home. So you have a wonderful concept, but we all know without the funding, you're not going to get the concept. And so we as a caucus, myself as a legislator that represents a majority, overwhelming majority of communities of color, we want to make sure that the $200 million is allocated. The mayor is saying that that the city shouldn't have to pay for something that the state is responsible for, because at the end of the day, the $200 million will be coming from our tax base, our revenues. So what the governor's position is almost akin to city pays for it. What the city is, state pays for correctional systems throughout the state of New York. But at the end of the day, if we cannot come together, you're not going to have the $200 million, and that jeopardizes a program that I want to work on the corrections committee for the New York State Assembly. And as a practicing attorney and all that stuff, I understand that a lot of these kids just need a little push, and anything that it increase or decrease recidivism that will get these kids back in the general population to become successful, productive citizens is something that we're going to fight for.
I can't just leave it there, but let me talk a little bit about bail reform too as well.
Yes.
We know that that's on the table. Where do we see this going?
Well, again, that's one of the things that under the criminal justice system that I believe will be an attempt at a bargaining chip from the Republicans. Essentially, we find for-profit bail repulsive. We find that it's almost inhumane, but certainly unjustifiable that where the kind of justice you receive is dependent on the zip code where you come from. So, if an African American or Latino male, or someone who's poor, as opposed to a general population, usually white, young white men, who come from families with more means, you commit the same offense because one doesn't have the money for bail. He gets to go, or she gets to go into the criminal justice system, into a jail, whereas the white counterpart who comes from wealthier parents go home. That's what happened with Khalif Browder, and we all know what happened with him. They just needed that money. He didn't have it, and for several months, he was mental breakdown, which ultimately led to his death. So there's some crimes, essentially there's some violent crimes that you should make it difficult for someone to get out if they're accused, but there's some crimes, some misdemeanors where
low-level offenses,
very low-level offenses that our kids should not be subjected to the criminal justice system in the way that they are for such a long, protracted period, because we're not even going to discuss the litigation involved and the games that are played and so forth, and discovery demands, which is another part of the criminal justice reform. That is now has a movement to change, the information that the DA has to provide to defending attorneys. But, we want to decrease the amount of interaction that our kids have with the criminal justice system. And so let's not politicize this issue. There's some things that are sacred. and that's certainly one of them.
How do we see things going out of Albany over the next couple of weeks and going into the month?
Well, you know, there's so many different things that are happening now, so many little dynamics, little pieces, struggles, fights for our communities. You know, we have to fight harder this year than we ever had because there's an impending budget that's going to have a $4 billion deficit. We don't know what's happening in Washington, D.C. and their hostility towards communities of color. You know, today there was a report about inflation peaking a little too fast for the liking of most economists. And when you have inflation, you're going to have to pay more for your mortgage, food, and so forth. So now we have this uncertainty about where inflation is going. You have a tax cap, property tax cap the governor has imposed for regular programs that people need, you know, social service programs, but doesn't apply to capital. So you can build billions of dollars of bridges. The 2% tax cap on property values doesn't impact what you can build, but it certainly will take money away from the social service programs and networks that our communities rely on. And so, you know, it's going to be a fight that we as a community are going to have, but we're going to have to fight harder than ever.
All right. Assemblymember Luis Sepulveda, thank you so much for coming and sharing. Good to see you as always.
Always good.
All righty then. He's our guest from the 87th Assembly District. Listen, we invite you to stay connected to him as we continue to talk more coming out of Albany and also out of Washington, D.C. We'll see how all of this plays out. What goes on in Washington will certainly have an effect here, and what goes on in New York State will bring you up to speed with all of that here on Open as well as on BronxNet Television. Taking a quick break, we'll be back with more show. We ask that you stay with us. We'll come right back right after this.
Cheru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Well, today is Valentine's Day, and usually on Valentine's Day, a lot of things occur. But here on Open, we wanted to bring you something a little special. It's called the Matters of the Heart. In 2008, more than 600,000 people died due to heart disease. Today, we've got Dr. Ulrich Yurda. cardiac transplant specialist. He's here to discuss the consequences as well as the treatments to heart disease. Also, we've got registered nurse Caroline Castillo, and we also have two recipients who are joining the show, and they're heart recipients, and they're Marianne Gaffney and John Lewis, and they're going to share a little bit with us today. And Dr. Yorda, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you all, actually. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's
So I
Day.
told people this would be a little bit different because, you know, on Valentine's Day, of course, it's about the heart.
Yep.
And we know that heart disease is something that affects a lot of people, but you guys are doing something pretty unique.
Yeah, you know, Valentine's Day is the day of love. And what we're talking about today is advanced heart failure that many Americans die of every year. And what we can do at the time point where medications fail, we can begin to replace the heart. Heart transplantation, most people are familiar with, and we have one heart transplant recipient here, Marianne Gaffney, who received a heart transplant at Montefiore about 4 months ago, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact date, that's good.
Right.
And we also have John Lewis here, who has actually received what you can refer to as an artificial heart. And I have here in my hands components that Mr. Lewis wears on his body to power a small pump about the size of an egg that provides about 6-7 liters of blood flow to his body until he will receive a heart transplant. These procedures have become routine. At Montefiore, we do hundreds of transplants a year and about one heart transplant a week. And we're also a leading center in the US on these so-called left ventricular assist devices that you can get nowadays either to wait for a heart transplant, maybe Mr. Lewis can speak himself a little bit about his experience, or as what we call destination therapy, if for some reason you are not a candidate for a heart transplant.
Okay, let me go first around the horn. Marianne, you just had one recently.
October 30th.
October 30th. What's life been like for you since then?
It's been wonderful. I got out of the hospital November 7th, which is amazing. I've been staying with friends and just trying to get back to normal activity.
How do you feel now?
I feel good. I feel really good. I feel very blessed to have received a heart. You know, I feel blessed to have a family that was kind enough to donate it to me as well.
And John, for you, I know that we talked a little bit before, and understanding the doctor's giving us a little bit about your story. Talk to us about it.
Well, I have my LVAD for about 3 years now, and life has changed. You know, I feel a lot better when I first met Dr. Yordi. I agree with her as far as, you know, life-changing experience. You know, you learn to appreciate what you have. You don't know it until you're about to lose it.
And with this experience of having actual, literally you're walking with the device daily, how does that impact what you do? Do you feel any change in your day-to-day activities?
No. I'm an avid golfer, a 10 handicap.
What?
I'm also in a bowling league. I also fish, and my hobby is photography. I keep myself mentally busy. There are some challenges, you know, there are some challenges out there that you have to deal with. But you adjust. You know, you adjust to it. And I thank Dr. Yordi, especially my coordinator. You know, she's one of the best. All I can say is I really can't, I won't say I can't function without her, but she's a lot of support. She gives me a lot of support.
And Carol, talk about that because as he talks about the support, talk about the support that's offered through what you do.
Well, you know, we spend a lot of time with our LVAD patients, and we develop a relationship that's very trusting. So the patients feel comfortable coming to us with any questions or concerns. You know, Mr. Lewis also is an advocate for the LVAD community. That's one thing he didn't mention that he does as one of his hobbies. Whenever we have a patient that's about to get a procedure that's very questionable about whether they should move forward, Mr. Lewis is always available to provide his story and to give them a background on really what happens throughout the process and after surgery and how it changes your life. And I'm just there, you know, to communicate with him and to make sure that he's able to do the things that he needs to do with his life to move forward, because eventually he will get a transplant. And the LVAD is really there to keep him healthy enough until that time comes.
Talk about nervousness, because you talked about that. Talk about the nervous process. I mean, a lot of people, as you say, this is a common procedure, but to an individual, it's a once, in a lifetime experience. Nervousness going in?
Absolutely, but I had the LVAD first, and it really didn't agree with me. It would beep all the time, and it was a little scary. The nurses would run in, the doctors would come in, and so when I was told I had a heart, that was just overwhelming. My family was there supporting me, but of course you're nervous, but I knew I had a new leash on life. So I was very fortunate, and Dr. Yordi and his team are amazing. They walked me through every step of the way, and it's funny now because you go into an operating room awake. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I had full trust in them. I had been there from the end of September till November 7th. So I had been there quite a while, and I had just a great relationship with everybody. So
let me just clarify one quick thing. Common. Heart failure is extremely common, with 6 million Americans getting it. We see about 10,000 visits a year at Montefiore. For our center, transplant is routine, but of course that's not a very common occurrence. It only happens about 2,500 times in the United States every year. We happen to be a very experienced center for both procedures, with an extremely experienced surgical team that actually placed the devices. My principal partner, Daniel Goldstein, is one of the leading surgeons in the world. So common for us, but not a common procedure in the US, where probably 10th, if not 100,000 patients get heart surgery every year, but transplantation is still rare, and part of that is that we do not have enough organs. A lot of people, about half of all Americans are organ donors. That's terrific. The other half, hopefully, is watching. And New York State actually has a low organ donation rate because New Yorkers are less likely to sign up to become organ donors than people in other states.
And before we go again, please lift up the device. We talked about it before, but let's talk about it again.
Right, so here's the, this is a little computer that Mr. Luis has right on his belt over there, and he has 2 batteries that he's carrying. And a cable about this thickness goes into the wall of the belly to a pump that is about as big as a big egg, I would say, that is connected, that the surgeons connect right to the heart, that then pumps instead of the heart about 6-7 liters a minute. This procedure has now been done 30,000 times, in the whole world, and America and in Germany are actually the 2 countries where it's most commonly performed. In the US, this is done about 5,000 times a year. The most important thing is when we have to do this, fortunately we do it well, but the most important thing is to come to attention early to avoid needing something like this. There's excellent medical therapy out there right now. There's excellent pacemaker therapy that we like to employ to avoid this stage.
I'm going to let you get the last word in this segment. Talk a little bit about, just real quickly, so after a person has the surgery, you do a lot of work with them afterwards in terms of counseling and what's available?
Yes, after the patient has the surgery, they're in the hospital for maybe about 3 weeks on average, and we spend that time not only educating them on the LVAD and how to take care of it for themselves, but also a family member. Because you always want to have the support of somebody at home. So we teach them both how to take care of the device, how to take care of themselves, and we let them know what to expect even before surgery.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming and sharing with us, and congratulations on the surgery. Wish you the best. When I heard that you said you were a golfer, I was excited. I was ready to go out and play. Then you said 10 handicap. I was like, I can't mess with you. So, but best wishes, and thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, doctor.
Best
Thank you.
doctor sitting there in front of you.
Thank you. All right, well, listen, we want to tell you this is a heart edition, and it's a matter of the heart. And so if you want to find out more information, please make sure that you check out Montefiore, and they'll give you more information with regards to the LVAC and all that we've just talked about here today. Taking a quick break. We're going to have more shows. Stay with us. We're coming right back, including the fire department. And what are they here to talk about? Helping you. We'll be right back in a few.
My name is Osvaldo Adames. I grew up in the Bronx and went to school right here at the Bronx School for Law, Government, and Justice. In the 7th grade, I hadn't given college that much thought. But all of that changed when I entered the Bronx Institute at Lehman College's Gear Up program. Gear Up helped simplify the entire college application process, helping me prepare for the SATs and organizing college visits and open houses. Last year, I graduated from Hamilton College in upstate New York with a major in mathematics and a minor in Mandarin Chinese. Now, I'm a teacher at my old middle school. I think back to 7th grade, and I honestly had no idea how much help Gear Up would be. They offered me the support I needed to succeed. If you're enrolled in Gear Up, talk to your academic coach or visit the Bronx Institute at www.thebronxinstitute.org for more information.
And we are back here on Open. Just a quick note about that last segment. We talked about John Lewis being a golfer with the LVAC. Well, he actually won just recently the Pelham Bay Golf Tournament. So congratulations goes out to John. Listen, the New York City Fire Department, they're continuing in their effort to inform the community and prevent possible fires. We welcome now Lieutenant Antonio Velez and firefighter Edwin Rojas as we're talking about fire prevention and fire safety. Many times there are fires that occurs in the home, and guess what? It could actually be prepared. And so we thank them both for coming and sharing with us. And
Thank you.
I know the order of rank, so I'm going to talk to the Lieutenant first, then we'll come on back, all right? So Lieutenant, talk to us about this here, because we talk about fires all the time. And many times there's some things that we can do to really work and prevent. So you guys have got some things out here. And so
some
give us a
goodies
little.
for you.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I want to start with a working smoke alarm. And I stress the word working because I can't tell you the amount of times I've been in people's homes where they may have multiple smoke alarms. And I look a little closer and I find that they're missing batteries, or the tenant doesn't remember the last time they tested them. So it's pertinent that you have a working smoke alarm. Make sure you test the battery every week. Make sure you change that battery twice a year, every 6 months.
So you should test every week?
You should. That's what's recommended. Test every week, change the batteries every 6 months. I know we use change a clock, change a battery. Well, you see us out there actually giving out batteries to folks. That way they can do that, because most of the time they don't do that. They forget. I'm holding in my hand here. This is a combination smoke and carbon monoxide. It's fairly new. It's been out for a couple of years now, but this one it's a lithium battery. It's inside. It's sealed, and it lasts 10 years.
Okay.
So that prevents you and I from forgetting to change that battery.
Right.
So it's a great idea. You can pick this up in any hardware store. It's great. You need to have at least, I recommend, the more the merrier. One in each level of the house, including the basement. Okay, and everyone should have a plan, and the plan starts with the working smoke alarm.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. Again, the first thing to know, and then once you get this alarm, when you hit the alarm, you want to know what to do. You know, you want to have an escape plan. You want to know where to go. You want to know, starts with what kind of building you live in. You know, whether there's a non-fireproof building, a fireproof building, or just a private house. Know where to go. Know that depending on the type that the house that you're in, you want to get out. Maybe it's also better to stay in some houses. Fireproof buildings, if the fire is not in your apartment, stay in the apartment. You don't have to go anywhere. It's a fireproof building. It's not going to go over. Whether outside is a regular house, private house, you want to know how I'm in the 2nd floor, I'm in the 3rd floor, I'm in the basement, I got to get out. You know, have a plan, especially with kids and elderly. You know, your plan is to get out, have a meeting point. That way it just helps not someone go back in and try to get somebody out. You know, you just want to have a plan. Right. Always have a plan where you live, have a plan on how to escape, have a plan on how to get out. And wherever you live, what kind of building it is, you want to try to close the door. You know, when you're trying to close the door, you want to get out. Private house, if it's a room, even though you try to close the door, it might just help to contain the fire to that room till we arrive, till any other help arrives. Same thing. Anywhere you go, just want to try to just kind of get out and close the door behind you.
Okay, so closing the door is a major thing that we want to make sure people know about.
Especially the last couple of months, we've had a wave of fires.
Right.
And it's pertinent that you close that door behind you. Like firefighter Rojas says, it's going to contain fire, smoke, flames from extending out into a multiple dwelling, possibly hurting more occupants. I know firefighters coming in to try to help you.
We got some more items on the table, so let's walk through this and talk about what we've got here.
This is just a flashlight. This is part of the plan. Part of the plan, escape plan. Make sure you have a flashlight. In case you lose power, you have light here. This happens to be just like the smoke alarm. It has an internal battery, so you're not looking for batteries last minute. It's in there. You can charge it. You can hand crank it. It has plug. You can use your car to charge it. You can use a solar panel to charge it. You can find these online. I've seen them at certain hardware stores also. $30, $40. I've even seen them with the radio frequency. In case you lose TV, you get posted on what's going on. Move on to this. It's my little mitten. There's a phrase on this in this mitten. It says, "Stand by your pan." Most fires happen where? In the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
In the kitchen. What happens is we get busy. We start to cook. We'll sit down. We'll forget we're cooking. 30 seconds later, we have a roaring kitchen fire. Okay. The biggest thing with the kitchen is make sure it's not unattended. Okay, so I like using this mitten as a reminder. Take the mitten with you, put it somewhere where you can see it.
And I like it says, stand by your pan.
It is.
It's a reminder.
There it is.
You know, you keep it by yourself. You want to remind that you're cooking, that you're doing something in the oven. You want to go back to make sure and check it doesn't get out of hand.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So you got these here?
The baking sodas, most common fires that begin in the kitchen are related to oil or grease. Okay, the biggest thing to do is make sure if you have baking soda. Baking soda is fantastic. I've heard of all. I've heard of coffee, I've heard of water, I've heard which is the worst thing you want to do is put water on an oil fire. Okay, never ever put water on an oil fire. But I've heard it all. Baking soda contains sodium bicarbonate, which is the #1 ingredient that you're going to find in those fire extinguishers. So if you don't have a fire extinguisher, it's a good idea to have a baking soda. Number 2.
Something as easy as a lid. Just try to put the lid over the pot and just remember, try to turn the oven on.
That's it.
The stove on, anything you have on, just try to turn it off. Just might help suppress
So
it.
making sure you have a lid, and many people just, we cook without a lid.
Without a lid, but you know, if you want to just throw a lid on it, turn it off, it might just suppress it a little bit until you can do a little bit better.
What happens is you throw whatever you have access to. It could be coffee, milk, whatever it is. Throw it on there, it spreads, you panic, and you run. Okay, if you can remember to turn off that stove, now we contain that fire to the stovetop and contain it to one room. That's ideal for us.
Right. Okay, I've seen a couple more things here, huh?
Definitely, we just have electrical. Go ahead, just.
UL. Make sure every piece of equipment that uses electricity has this UL.
Okay,
Stands for Underwriters Laboratories.
Okay.
Okay, this is the most common. There's several out there. ETL is another common one, but UL is the most common. Make sure that's tested by UL and it's safe for our use. Okay, you want to make these purchases at hardware stores. Okay, that's what we recommend. Stay away from certain discount stores when we're buying items like this.
Another thing with electrical is just extension cords. You know, like these are used for just temporary use. They're not just to be left there for years to go, you know, connecting stuff like that. Not for appliances. We also try to tell the people that if your appliance heats up, cools off, warms up, you want it straight to the wall. Anything that gives heat or anything like AC, refrigerator, stove, you want it straight to the wall. You don't want to use any of this. If you have to use it because you can't reach, you got to buy an appliance cord.
Right.
It's only for one appliance. And it'll go straight to the wall if you can't reach to that outlet.
Now you're giving some education here because there's a difference now between what's called an extension cord and an appliance cord.
Do you know what there's no difference though between these two? They're exactly the same thing.
Okay.
Just a harder cover. Same thing, same gauge, same everything. But this is the difference. This is the one you always want to use for appliances.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
Ideally, appliances should go right into the wall. But if you have no choice, you go with the 14 gauge or better.
Right. We got 2 small items here at the end.
This is just to remind you candles. Candles are dangerous, you know, especially if you have pets or kids around. There's a lot of these battery-operated candles that we can use instead of regular candles. If you happen to use a candle, just don't leave them unattended. Don't leave your house. Don't leave stuff on, you know, and just leave.
A word of advice is if you're going to use a real candle, once you make sure you turn it off before you leave that room. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and a lot of people leave candles on, unfortunately.
Yes.
We know the story there, and we've seen too many times the fires, and we've reported them here, the fires and even the devastation that's been caused by them. But this is the reason why they're called New York's bravest, and we want to thank Lieutenant Velez and Firefighter Rojas, for coming and sharing with us, giving us a little bit of these tips so that we can be able to share with our Bronxites. And thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Even more, thank you for the work that you guys do.
Thank you.
All right, listen, taking a quick break, you're watching Open. Hopefully you got this information that you can take some of this stuff, apply it to your home so that way you can make your home just a little bit safer. A little difference can make a whole lot of difference in, well, a little bit can make a whole lot of difference in your own house. Listen, taking a quick break, stay with us. You're watching Open. We'll be right back right after this.
And I can't change, even if I try, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I bought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments when we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
Well, after 5 decades of educating and improving the lives of Bronxites, Hostos Community College is maintaining their commitment to the community. And talking about their 50th anniversary celebration, we welcome now Sul Rivera, Project Manager and Acting Director of Presidential Strategic Initiatives. Try saying that twice. Good to have you, Sul.
Thank you.
And congratulations, 50 years.
Yeah, 15
A
years.
long time. And you know, we all know about Hostos and the great work that they've actually done, but not a lot of people don't know it's actually 50 years.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a priceless, invisible present to have, that educational institution in the South Bronx for all these years.
Mm-hmm.
You've done amazing work, lifted a lot of spirits, transformed lives, and I know Hostos has had an impact on how the Bronx has grown and developed.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us about the 50th celebration. Obviously, a lot's going on during this time of year.
A lot is going on right now. We just celebrated. Cheryl Wells came to the college last week to be part of the Black History Month. It was inspiring and beautiful. For April, we're expecting Amanda Gorman, the U.S. Young Poet Laureate. So we're excited about that. At the end of this month, we celebrate the first Hostos president, Dr. Michelin, who's very old. He's like 94, 95. And he's going to get an homage, for being that first leader that the college had. And then the 19th of April is the big scholarship benefit. And that's really where we're going to raise funds to help students continue their education. And at the end of the year, the Hostos Repertory Theater returns to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, which is one of the world's most recognized theater festivals. And this would be the second time that the Hostos Rep goes and attends. So we're going to help all these people have a great time.
And I mean, with the work that's being done, a lot of people have, as you said, it's transcended the lives of a lot of people. Talk to us about the importance of the college and what it means for the community. I mean, obviously for somebody who's a person that has to work, or, you know, it's not the traditional university, but, you know, community college really serves a lot of benefit to some people.
Absolutely, and that is because, you know, when you are either a working mother or a single working mother or just a single individual who is needing to start off, you know, community colleges offer something that's affordable, especially the whole of CUNY does. And I think that Hostos is well positioned and has been to help educate some of the most disenfranchised communities that we have in our country. And unfortunately, the Bronx has some of these very, that specific demographic.
Yeah, a lot of challenges, but you guys are rising up to meet the challenges as well. What's the atmosphere like, I mean, on the campus? I mean, we know it's 50 years. Talk to me about the atmosphere on the campus between both students as well as faculty.
Well, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm, and people are just really focused on studying. I mean, the semester just started, so the hallways are packed. Professors are, you know, full blast, you know, teaching. And I think there's a lot of pride, you know, obviously everybody, that's one of the things that I most admire about the college, is to see the faculty and the staff, that they go in every day with enthusiasm, with commitment, with respect. And that is something that Hostos is, you know, I hold it dear to my heart because people are committed, you know, the professionals there that go there every day to help and to teach and to empower. It's no small thing. And I think everybody feels really proud of the work we do, and I certainly do.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end, but talk to us about, what do you want us to know?
Well, I want you to go and visit the website and look at all of the calendar of events that we have, you know, all the events that are coming up between now and May, when the final commencement, you know, for the 50th year happens. Also, at the end of April, we are going to be doing what we call the big event, which is when the college comes together and helps out in the borough, a day of volunteering. And it's a big action day to give back, you know, and I think Hostos has been giving back and will continue to give back. And all of these events are open to the public, so, you know, we welcome everyone.
Well, thank you so much, and best wishes, and congratulations to Hostos for their 50th anniversary. Of course, you can always check that out by going to the website, as you said, and find out the whole calendar of events. If we had to give that, then Sue would be here till we got to do another show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming,
Thank
Sue.
you for having me.
Listen, we have come to the end of the show today. We want to thank all of our guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, we invite you to catch the Recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. If you're watching on Cablevision, that's channel 67. If you're watching on Verizon Fios 33, or anytime on the web, www.bronxnet.org. Remember, we want to wish everybody happy Valentine's Day. Take care. God bless.